Interstate 94. Yeah! Alright, Interstate 94 is a fantastic road. It was my favorite road when I was a kid, so this is going to be kind of a personal episode. We just did some New England stuff. I'm not a New England guy, I don't know too much about it, but we're getting more into my wheelhouse in this episode, so I'm excited to do it. Alright, first we'll take a look at the route of I-94. It extends from Billings, Montana to Port Huron, Michigan, as we can see here. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you're really into it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. And just a friendly reminder, you can request your exit for a $5 super thanks or super sticker, so we can get more of your exits involved. 94 is going to be done for now, but if you've got anything to request for I-95 or any interstates after that, then go ahead and leave those in the comments. Thanks, everyone. We've got quite a few today. Alright, first off, we're going to talk about eastbound I-94. I-94 begins here at a split with I-90. It is not the last time we'll meet I-90. We'll meet it several times, in fact. 94 signed for Bismarck here, 90 for Sheridan. So good one on 94. And we see right from the start we get Bismarck 410 miles away. Quite a distance to go, but it is the correct control city in my opinion. Miles City, a fine secondary there. At random interchanges in Montana, it is Bismarck that is signed. We meet US 12 for Forsyth. I've actually gotten off at this exit before to go camping, and this is one of many times we will meet US 12. Here we cross the Yellowstone River, which we will be kind of following for much of I-94 through Montana. And welcome to North Dakota. That's a cool sign that North Dakota's got. And in far western North Dakota, we are in kind of badlands, just like in South Dakota. A little less famous, but every bit as rugged. This is around Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And here is another look at the park, the southbound end. The park is on both sides of I-94. Quite a nice view here of the badlands, and we see 3 signs on this Control City sign, but most importantly, Bismarck is on the bottom line. Dickinson, a sensible secondary, also signed there. And Dickinson remains our secondary up until we get there. Here's what it looks like in Dickinson, and we see 94 East Bismarck. No surprise. Now we get some new secondary cities, and Bismarck is still on the bottom line. We're getting there. We're only 94 miles away now. And here we meet the Bismarck Expressway, which is actually 194, but it doesn't seem it's ever actually signed as 194. It's quite short for a 3-digit interstate. And now we are on 94 East Fargo, which is the right choice. We cross the Missouri River, and here's a look at the North Dakota state capital from I-94. We see in Bismarck, at random interchanges, we get 94 East Fargo. Fargo's on the bottom line here, so that comes as no surprise. Oh, and we've got a US 52 signing for westbound US 52, and we are becoming concurrent with eastbound US 52 for quite a while, actually. Get a pull through sign 94 East, and we get an exit for US 10 and Business Route 94 Main Avenue. No Control City, and US 52 does its usual thing and doesn't show up on the sign. But 52 is back here. We're meeting I-29 in Fargo. We are now signed 94 East Minneapolis, which is absolutely the correct choice. 29 signed for Sioux Falls and Grand Forks, which are also good choices. And here we see the next sign with basically the same information we just saw. Minneapolis, Grand Forks, Sioux Falls. In Fargo, we get more of an urban sort of mileage laundry list sign for the next 3 exits. And we cross into Minnesota. I could not find a Welcome to Minnesota sign anywhere. All I found was this Moorhead billboard, since we're going into Moorhead, Minnesota. And Minnesota, we get East 94 Fergus Falls instead of Minneapolis or even St. Cloud. So quite a downgrade from Minneapolis after we cross the border here. Not great on Minnesota's part. Fergus Falls is the secondary here, and we go to St. Paul as the bottom line city. So we skip Minneapolis on this particular sign. And here we get 94 East, 59 South, Alexandria. That's not good at all. And also, why no 52 on there? 59's on there. And an overhead mileage sign, which I've seen a couple times in Minnesota, and I like that. I'd like to see more of those. There's lots of overpasses on freeways. Why not just put them up on the overpass? And we see Alexandria as the secondary. Minneapolis is on the bottom line instead of St. Paul here. And from Alexandria, we're now on East 94, Minnesota Highway 27, St. Cloud. No mention of US 52. Now St. Cloud is on the second line, Minneapolis on the bottom line where it should be. In St. Cloud, we've got this exit with Minnesota Highway 15, and 94 gets a pull through for Minneapolis and St. Paul both. We're meeting 494 and 694, so 494 south gets no control city. I usually like to see my loops with some kind of control city. And 94 and 694 east get Minneapolis, St. Paul. Now we're splitting from 694, so we get east 94 Minneapolis, 694 nothing. I looked it up. 694 and 494 together form a perfect loop, so I really don't know why they have two different numbers. It seems one number would do the job, like a 435 in Kansas City or a 285 in Atlanta. I don't know why they have it split up into two. And it's not like in St. Louis, because 270 and 255 intersect each other with that dog-ear thing going on. This is just a straight up loop that has two numbers. Coming into Minneapolis, now we lose our control cities. Once we're within the Twin Cities, we don't really get any control cities. We get 394 Hennepin Avenue and US 12, East US 12 going straight. No sign for 52. And we get a good look at downtown Minneapolis as we drive by. We're going to be going into a tunnel with a tight turn here just shortly, and we're getting a sign for South 35W, of course with no control city. Here's what it looks like in that tunnel in Minneapolis, and here's our exit for South 35W. Shortly after, we get an exit for North 35W. Would it kill them to throw Duluth on that sign? I don't know. And we cross the Mississippi River here. It's not too wide yet at this point. And now we're in St. Paul, so there is a look at the Minnesota state capitol. So we've seen a couple on this road. We're going to be meeting northbound 35E and eastbound 94 and 10 going this way. US 52 is on there too. They named 10, but they don't name 52. I guess maybe because US 10 is splitting for west and east. And then finally we get our exit for US 52, and in the most US 52 thing ever, we get no control city, not even a direction for 52, just a 52 shield and an arrow. Still no control cities on eastbound 94, and now we get eastbound 10 and southbound US 61, so at least for those roads, we get a direction. No control city though. And now we meet 694 and 494 once again, and we finally get a control city on I-94. It is now 94 Madison, which is the correct choice, I believe. However, at random interchanges, we get 94 East Hudson, which is the first town in the Wisconsin side. I couldn't find a proper welcome to Wisconsin sign once again, so we get just Wisconsin here and St. Croix County. So pretty lame, Wisconsin, pretty lame. Meeting North Wisconsin Route 35 for Hudson. I actually spent a week in Hudson one time, and the only thing I remember about the week is renting and watching Die Hard 3 with a buddy. That's it. At this interchange, we get St. Paul for one way, which I don't think is too much of a spoiler, and we get Eau Claire and River Falls for the other direction. Eau Claire instead of Madison now. Oh, after Hudson, we do get a Wisconsin welcomes you, so I guess Wisconsin doesn't welcome you into Hudson, only afterward. And now we're meeting South Route 35 for Hudson and River Falls. This exit was requested by Steve Manfred, so thank you so much for your request, sir. I appreciate it. And this is an exit I probably would have mentioned anyway, because I've actually been to River Falls. The Chiefs used to have their training camp back there back in the day, so we went during Joe Montana's first year in '93. And at this random interchange, we see we're getting 94 West St. Paul, not too much of a spoiler, and 94 East Eau Claire. So we've basically switched entirely to Eau Claire instead of having Madison there. And in fact, Eau Claire is the bottom line here, 60 miles away. No mention of Madison anymore. Here in Eau Claire, we get 94 East Madison, so 94 Madison does show up again. We've got Toma on the second line, where we'll be meeting I-90, and Madison on the bottom line. This random interchange, we get Osseo, or something like that. I have no idea what they're doing there. That seems strange. We meet I-90, and we're going to get 90-94 for Wisconsin Dells and Madison, so they're going to put Wis Dells up there, which makes sense, but Madison is the primary control, and 90 West for La Crosse and Albert Lee. I'm going to skip the 90-94 concurrency. We already covered that in the I-90 Central video, which you can check out right here. And we're going to move on to where they split in Madison. So we are getting 39-90 for Chicago and 90 for Milwaukee, which is what we will follow. Random interchanges, it is 94 East Milwaukee, no surprise. And Milwaukee is also on the bottom line of mileage signs, so that makes sense as well. Here in suburban Milwaukee, we still get a 94 Milwaukee pull-through, so that's good signage there. Now we're entering into the Zoo interchange. We get 94 East Milwaukee, and we're meeting I-41 and 894 bypass for Chicago and Fond du Lac. And shout out to Eric Thompson here for the super thanks who wanted to see the Zoo interchange. Here we go. We will see it again on westbound. Here's Miller Park, or whatever they're calling it these days. You can see it pretty easily right from I-94. You guys know I'm no fan of corporate name stadiums, but sometimes I feel like a corporation name's okay if the corporation is completely thought of with the city, intertwined with the city, like Miller Park in Milwaukee or Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. But now those are gone and there's some other random corporation, so that's no fun. At this point, we're now on 94 East downtown because we are probably already within Milwaukee city limits. And here we are getting to the intersection with 794 and 43 for Green Bay and Lakefront. 43 South and 94 assigned for Chicago. And this was a super thanks exit as well, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about that more on the westbound video. And here's where we merge into I-43 with I-94 and head south through the southern end of Milwaukee. Here 43 splits off again, and 41 will join us for the rest of the trip down to Chicago, or to at least the Illinois border. At random interchanges, it is Chicago, which is good. They could have gone with Kenosha at this point, but I think going with Chicago is definitely the correct choice. And welcome to Illinois. We got a giant cannabis billboard welcoming us in as well. Here we split with US 41, and US 41 is signed South Waukegan. That is the free road to go down into Chicago. And 94 East Chicago and Indiana, because we're going to be meeting 294, which is signed for Indiana. We enter the Tri-State Tollway here shortly after that. And here we're meeting Grand Avenue in Gurnee. So this is a super thanks from Andy Kills You. So thank you so much for that, buddy. And this is right where we're meeting a couple of things here. We are meeting, most importantly, Great America. We've got Great America right next to the highway, so we can see Great America right here. Now we meet 294. It is signed for Indiana and O'Hare, which is good signage, and 94 East Toll, Chicago. We go through our toll barrier here when we're on the Eden Spur, and here is where we merge into the Eden's Expressway with US 41, which is already in progress. US 41 leaves quickly, though, at Skokie Road here, which later becomes Cicero, although we will pass Cicero Avenue later. And here we pass Devon Avenue, which is the entrance into Chicago. No welcome to Chicago sign, but we will be in Chicago after that. We meet I-90 at a Y interchange, and we're meeting 90 once again. And 90, as we don't have a direct connection with it, we get this Foster Avenue exit for it. O'Hare Field, that's old-timey Chicago. And as mentioned, we do meet Illinois 50 South Cicero Avenue. This is a road I've been on a whole lot, but way south of here. And here's where we cross the Kennedy Expressway, I-90, along with the CTA Blue Line, so that we can have our 90-94 concurrency right through downtown. There's our exit for Addison Street, so you can take that down to check out the Cubs. We don't get too close to Wrigley Field, so I don't have a picture there. And at North Avenue, you can see Wicker Park and Bucktown right over there, a little bit further down. Cool area of town. We get some great views of the Chicago skyline here on the Kennedy Expressway. And as we head into town, we are now on 90-94 East Indiana, and we meet with 290, which is signed for Aurora. It's another cool view of downtown Chicago. You see the L tracks crossing over that bridge. I think that must be Lake Street then, if the L tracks are on top of it. And here's our exit for 290. Over there, we see it's under construction a bit, but we get the circle interchange, which is pretty cool. And if you squint, you might be able to see Soldier Field right here. It's a little bit far away. And now we're meeting I-55 south of downtown, I-55 for St. Louis and Lakeshore Drive. 90-94 still for Indiana. On the Dan Ryan Expressway here, we are splitting into local and express. When I was a kid, this blew my mind. And we get a look at Sox Park there to the right, and we are coming up to the 35th Street exit, or actually we passed that already. We see the 35th Street overpass here with the Chicago White Sox sign on it. Now we're going to be meeting 90 Chicago Skyway to Indiana Toll Road. And 90 will split off here, and we get East 94 Indiana. Here's the 76th Street Bridge. We see a lot of rapid-fire exits here on the south side, and I don't know why, but seeing these exits on the south side, it just makes me happy. Here's a look at the CTA Red Line, which is in the median of the Dan Ryan Expressway all the way down to 95th Street. And we meet I-57. We get South 57 Memphis and 94 East Bishop Ford Freeway, Indiana. We get our exit with Stony Island Avenue, which is sort of a mini freeway in and of itself. You can kind of take for a quick way across this part of the south side, that part, and then 94, and then 57. So then you get kind of a freeway going crosstown. Across this bridge over the Calumet River, not nearly as high as the one on I-90. And now we're going to be meeting I-80. We're going to be multiplexed with I-80 East Indiana. And we see signs for West 80 Iowa and 294 Wisconsin. And here's what it's like after our splits. Of course, we can't forget 394 for Danville, although it doesn't go anywhere near Danville. And here's what it looks like coming on to the Borman. Just trucks as far as the eye can see. Wow. Looks like rough traffic on the day this was taken. And here it is, right in the thick of all these trucks. Welcome to Indiana. Great overhead sign because you'd never be able to see it if it was just on the side of the road. At random interchanges, once we are in Indiana, we get 80-94 for Detroit. So we get 94's control rather than 80's. We meet I-65, sign south for Indianapolis, north for 2 Toll Road. And here's our split, 80 East, 90, 2 Toll Road, and 94 East Detroit. You can go west on 90 at that interchange as well, but I can't imagine why anybody would. They don't sign the movement, but it is possible. And after leaving I-80, it is 94 East Detroit. And we see Detroit on the bottom line, 254 miles away. Michigan City, a sensible secondary before that. Here's our exit for Michigan City, so 421 North, Michigan City, and 421 South. And here I'd like to give a shout out to Northwest Indiana Elevators for this super thanks. Really appreciate you, buddy. And we get 20 East, 35 South for LaPorte and South Bend. I've gotten off at this exit before, actually. I've been to LaPorte once or twice. I always liked the flyover in LaPorte for some reason. I'll do one of those roads one day. And welcome to Pure Michigan. Nice sign for the Michigan welcome sign, and I also like that it's overhead. Although I gotta say, when I was a kid, I loved the Michigan welcome sign back in the 80s. This Yes, Michigan Welcome was just the GOAT of state welcome signs. They should bring that back. Here's our first overpass in Michigan, Wilson Road. And when I was a kid, like I said, going to a family vacation place in Michigan, this was always my favorite bridge, but it looked a lot different back then. If we look back in 2007, we can see what it used to look like. I don't know what it was about it. Maybe because we were almost to where our family reunion thing was going to be, but I just always dug that bridge. The next one after that also has changed a bit. Here's what it looked like in 2011 or so. And again, kind of a cool look. I don't know what it is. And here's our exit, good old exit 23. This was the final exit for all my road trips when I was a kid, so this was always something super exciting. And we see we have a distributor lane where we get the 94 St. Joseph Benton Harbor Red Arrow Highway. And when I was a kid, this sign, this arrow sign for this loop has been there forever, and this always knocked me out. For a long time, I thought that's just where I-94 ended, because you have that arrow and then you have to get off. At this interchange, it is East 94 Detroit, and the bridge is kind of in the Wilson Road style, so right on. Here's a brand new interchange. I believe it is open now, but it was not open on the latest Street View. US 31. They've been building this for quite a while, trying to figure out a path for US 31 through the St. Joe Benton Harbor area, and this is where it'll be. I thought that would connect it straight to 196. This is what they did. And now we get 94 East Detroit and 196 and US 31 for Holland and Grand Rapids. And I've been on basically all of I-94 up until this point, but from this point on, I have never been on it, so this is all new to me. Detroit 185. Here we're meeting 131 in Kalamazoo, so south 131 for Three Rivers, north for Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids. 131 is a freeway. Now we get Battle Creek, Jackson, and Detroit, so good mileage signs there. We're meeting 194 for downtown Battle Creek, or Michigan 66, south for Sturgis, and we are still on East 94 Detroit. A lot of these exits were requested by Alex Jones, so I'll give a shout out to him there for the super thanks. Appreciate that, buddy. A lot of Michigan exits along the way that are fairly important. Now we meet I-69, and not for the last time. At this point, I-69 is signed for Fort Wayne and Lansing. 127 is also a freeway in this area, so 127 signed for Lansing and Jackson. Here we get State Highway 14 for Plymouth and 94 for Detroit, with Ann Arbor coming up. 23 is a pretty important freeway kind of route throughout Michigan, and here it is signed for Toledo and Flint. So it gets pretty long-distance control cities because of its freeway status. Meeting US 12 once again, Michigan Avenue, and 94 for Metro Airport and Detroit. And here's exit 190 for Belleville Road. This was requested by Nightwalker, so I really appreciate that. Thank you, buddy. Thanks so much. Now we're meeting 275, a kind of outer loop of Detroit. 94 is still signed for Detroit. 275 north for Flint and Toledo. Here we pass by the Detroit Wayne Airport, which is the only place in Detroit that I've ever actually been to. Got to change that one of these days. I-96 for Lansing and Bridge to Canada, and from this point we are now signed 94 for Port Huron. 75 signed for Flint and Toledo. I would probably sign one of those ways for downtown Detroit. I think southbound from here, downtown Detroit. And here we got it, 8 Mile Road, which means we're leaving Detroit city limits. Now we get 696 for Lansing and 11 Mile Road. And at random interchanges around here, it is 94 East Port Huron. Now we're meeting I-69 west for Flint, and we're going to be on eastbound 94 and 69. They will be concurrent for the rest of this route. Here's our last exit for USA Port Huron and Bridge to Canada, exit only, straight ahead. And here is the actual split, exit 275, so we're going with I-94's numbers, USA, Port Huron, and Canada. So no city given. I've argued before it probably should be Toronto here, especially on I-69. I understand why not on 94, because you'd get off in Detroit to go to Toronto. And here is our view of the immigration customs area as we head into Canada. But that shall end I-94 East, as that ends I-94 East. So let's take a look at Todd's the way it should be. I'm going to say the way it should be for eastbound 94, it should be Bismarck, Fargo, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago, Indiana, like they do in Chicago, I'm down with that. Then Detroit, then Port Huron, then Canada or Toronto, I'd be fine with. But again, on 94, I understand it not. On 69, it kind of makes more sense. But since it's both at that point, Toronto would do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. Next week, I believe we'll be coming with a Todd Ranks the State DOTs episode, and then we will continue on with 94 after that. So actually, you probably do have time. If you do have any more 94 requests, send them in sometime in the next week. Thank you so much. My name is Todd, and until next time, keep on trucking.